Hi, I'm Tariq Melrose. Today I witnessed a beautiful metaphor for modern governance. Lots of sound, very little meeting, and a crowd applauding anyway. But not here. We're not clapping for confusion, we're cutting through it. Subscribe now, because while they put on a show, we're putting up subtitles. And it's about time.
Trump's plan to fix FEMA, gut disaster relief, freeze life-saving grants, and leave Americans stranded when catastrophe strikes. Stay tuned, because in this video, we're breaking down how the GOP's FEMA sabotage puts politics above saving lives, and why it's a national disgrace.
Thank you, Madam Ranking Member. The floor now belongs to the gentlelady from Connecticut, the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, who got here as quick as she could. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. My God, this is twice in one day here, so it's great to see you. We're hearing hopping here. Thank you so much, and I want to thank the ranking member Underwood for holding the hearing today, and welcome to you, Madam Secretary, and thank you for appearing before the subcommittee today. I just want to begin with a message to your workforce, if I might, and that's I'm grateful, very grateful for the work that they do, from search and rescue efforts of the Coast Guard to our first responders around the ground after natural disasters, to those keeping us safe in the air and on the ground and at sea. I want to start with some big picture questions, because I think we know very little of the details about where the $646 million cuts within FEMA's grant programs will come from. It is no secret that there are numerous reports of you, if we need to correct the record, stating that you want to, quote, eliminate FEMA within the Department of Homeland Security. I'm concerned about the direction that the administration is taking with regard to FEMA, canceling programs like BRIC, a program enacted into law by President Trump in his first term without any evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse, alongside the freezing of grants, and now 2026 budget requests targeting even more of FEMA's resources. And just right now, in terms of looking at the cancellations, the Science and Technology Directors, Centers of Excellence, and Office of University Programs, as I mentioned, the FEMA-administered grant programs frozen virtually all grant obligations pending a review as it determines whether it will try to choke off funding for unacceptable political reasons. Resources for states and communities to respond to disasters, secure firefighting equipment, protect against terrorism, secure our ports, and much more is being held up. And as I mentioned, the cancellation of the BRIC program, funding to support hazard mitigation, reduce the toll of future disasters, save lives. That money's not going out. Research has shown mitigation efforts like BRIC save a minimum of $6 for every dollar invested, and save more than double when including mitigation of economic impacts. So federal disaster relief should be readily available across the United States, regardless of where you live. Natural disasters happen everywhere. They should not be concerned about the federal government turning their back on them when they need the help the most. We need to give constituents what they need when they're facing tragedy, that they will not be stranded due to political discord. My ask of you is, what is your plan with regard to FEMA? Are you planning to eliminate FEMA? Your testimony references that you want to, quote, eliminate dysfunction of the current agency. I'm unclear, I don't know if my colleagues are clear on what you mean by dysfunction. And I'm concerned that you're causing more dysfunction within the workforce that should be preparing itself for the pending hurricane season.
Well, thank you for your question and the discussion on this topic today. President Trump has been very clear since the beginning that he believes that FEMA and its response in many, many circumstances has failed the American people, and that FEMA as it exists today should be eliminated and empowering states to respond to disasters with federal government
if you'll
support.
Just, with all due respect, where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA? I don't know about everybody else on this. My state, Connecticut, was hit very, very hard with Superstorm Sandy. Every community in some way or another has been hit by that. And the FEMA on the ground, people come in, work with the families, deal with getting the funding out. Where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA?
Congresswoman, we still have claims open from Hurricane Katrina. We have fire claims that are still unpaid to people who said they were due them 7 to 8 to 10 years old. They have never been paid by FEMA. So one of the worst things that the federal government can do is to stand up in front of the American public and say, we will be there, we will walk alongside you in the most horrible time of your life, and then never follow through on it.
Well, that's
what the president has said is he's sick and tired of federal agencies that pick and choose who wins and who loses. He wants to make sure that the federal government's commitment, when it makes a commitment, that it follows through. So he's going to empower states.
The federal government is abdicating its commitment to the American people who find
themselves. It did
themselves.
certainly under Joe Biden's administration. But now President Trump's going to make
let me
sure
just say this
that
to you. The
communities are
Office
ready
of
for
Professional
disasters.
Responsibility. The Office of Professional, because I knew you were going to go there. As you know, FEMA's Office of Professional Responsibility, under the Biden administration, there was no evidence, no direction or agency or field leadership to discriminate against disaster victims based on political
I'll
affiliation,
give you all
which
the
was a
evidence you
charge.
need. I'll follow up with you.
Well,
get
and
you
I will
those
follow
facts.
up. I will follow up, and I follow up with my colleagues, quite frankly, and to really listen to people whose states, communities have been devastated, and what role FEMA has played. I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars went out in Louisiana. Actually, I've asked my staff to calculate that when Katrina hit, and the response was overwhelming. And the response has been overwhelming. If you want to make corrections, that's fine. We all agree with that.
Yeah, we can point to thousands and thousands of
Well,
instances where
if you
where
wouldn't
FEMA
mind getting
was
this
timely
committee,
and
if you
responsive
wouldn't
to
mind
people.
getting this committee,
Unfortunately,
the information and the evidence where you talk about the dysfunction of the agency and where it has really failed. That would be important to those of us who are appropriating dollars. And it would appear that the administration overall has a way in which they're looking at dismantling the federal government. The states will never have the amount of money because the federal government isn't going to pass that money to the states to be able to deal with what happens. It's when the federal government comes in and be able to give a hand to do that. And I think it's very clear from what you said that both yourself and the president really want to dismantle the federal government and the agencies that have provided service to the American people for decades. I thank the chair for your time and yield back.
What we just heard from the gentle lady from Connecticut is the kind of direct, unvarnished truth that slices right through the Trump administration's spin and exposes just how dangerous their so-called reform of FEMA really is. Let's be clear. FEMA is not some abstract government entity that only exists in budget spreadsheets. It is the backbone of America's disaster relief system. When wildfires rip through California, when hurricanes slam the Gulf Coast, when tornadoes tear through the Midwest, FEMA is the agency that deploys resources, coordinates logistics, and literally saves lives. And now, under Trump's direction, they're planning to gut it. The ranking member laid out the stakes with surgical precision. We're not talking about a modest budget tweak. We're talking about $646 million in cuts to FEMA's grant programs, cuts to the BRIC program, a proven hazard mitigation effort that saves $6 for every $1 invested, and even more when you count the economic impacts prevented. This isn't waste. This is one of the smartest, most cost-effective uses of taxpayer money we have. And Trump's DHS is freezing it, targeting it, and starving it. And it's not just BRIC. Grants that help states prepare for terrorism, secure ports, buy firefighting equipment, and harden infrastructure are all being held up. FEMA's Office of University Programs and its Centers of Excellence, gone. Why? Not because they were failing, but because this administration is running a political purge of anything they can label dysfunctional, which in Trump speak means not under his personal control. When pressed for specifics, where will these cuts fall? Where's the evidence FEMA has failed? Do you have it in writing? The secretary had nothing but vague talking points about open claims from Katrina and wildfires, and recycled Trump's tired line about being sick and tired of federal agencies picking winners and losers. Let's pause on that for a second. FEMA is supposed to prioritize need, not political loyalty. And under Biden's FEMA, there's been zero evidence of political bias in disaster aid. But under Trump, we all remember the whispers, and sometimes the outright threats, about disaster help being tied to governor's political alignment. The gentle lady made an unshakable point. The federal government's role in disaster response exists because disasters don't respect state lines or tax bases. States cannot possibly match the federal government's resources, especially when entire regions are wiped out. That's why we have FEMA in the first place. To dismantle it is not empowering states. It's abandoning Americans in their darkest hour. And here's the big picture. This is part of a broader Trump project to dismantle the federal government's core capacity to serve its people. We've seen it in public health, in environmental protection, in civil rights enforcement, and now in disaster relief. Strip away federal programs, dump responsibility on the states without the money to back it up, then sit back while inequality in disaster response grows. Wealthier states will limp through, poorer ones will collapse, and all of it will be spun as local empowerment. The ranking member's demand for evidence was critical. If FEMA is broken, show us the data. Show us systemic failures, not cherry-picked anecdotes. Show us a better plan that will actually get aid to people faster. But that's not what this administration is offering. They have no comprehensive replacement. They have no transition blueprint, just a reckless push to rip out the engine before we've even designed the new one, all while hurricane season is around the corner. And that's what makes this so dangerous. Natural disasters aren't on hold while Trump's team runs political experiments. The next big storm, the next megafire, the next catastrophic flood, they will come. And if FEMA is defunded, destabilized, and demoralized, it's the American people who will pay the price in lives lost and communities destroyed. The gentle lady is absolutely right. This is not just about FEMA. This is about the philosophy driving Trump's entire approach to governance. A deliberate dismantling of federal capacity, a hollowing out of institutions that have served the public for decades, and a replacement of those institutions with a chaotic patchwork that rewards political loyalty and punishes those who don't bend the knee. That's why this hearing matters. It puts on the record for the American people exactly what's at stake. Whether we have a federal government that honors its commitments or one that shrugs and says, you're on your own. Whether disaster aid is a right guaranteed to every American or a favor doled out when politically convenient. And here's the truth Trump doesn't want you to hear. FEMA works. Is it perfect? Number. But when properly funded and led, it delivers results. After Superstorm Sandy, after countless floods, fires, and hurricanes, FEMA's men and women have shown up, worked around the clock, and helped families rebuild their lives. Cutting their legs out from under them right now isn't reform. It's sabotage. If you care about this country's ability to respond to disaster, if you want to know there will be a coordinated, well-funded federal response when your community is in ruins, then you should be outraged by what you just heard. Because under Trump's plan, that safety net will be shredded. And when catastrophe hits, you'll be left wondering why Washington never showed up. This has been Tariq Melrose Vlogs, where we break down the political moves that put your life, your safety, and your rights at risk. If you believe in a government that shows up when disaster strikes, that keeps its promises to the people, and that doesn't play politics with human suffering, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe. Because the fight to protect FEMA and to stop Trump's dismantling of our government starts with making sure every American knows exactly what's happening before it's too late.